Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever game day show where we discuss sporting events, rivalries, and everything under the sun relating to sports here at Ravenwood. I am joined with two co-hosts today. Right next to me is Trip Scouten, and on the far end is Jacob Newton. We are going to be discussing the biggest matchup of the year. You know it, you love it. Ravenwood versus Brentwood, the Battle of the Woods game. We are going to start off with how Ravenwood is doing so far this season. We have played 4 games against NBA, BGA, Franklin, and Oakland, and we're going to start with NBA. An unfortunate loss, got kicked around a little bit. Trip, what are your thoughts on this one?
Man, it was an overall good effort from the Raptors, but the early turnovers led to a pretty poor result at the end.
Yeah, and our offensive line, I think they struggled a bit under the immense pressure of the NBA pass rushers. Parson was put under a lot of pressure throughout, forced outside several times. Just a tough game.
Yeah, it really was a tough game. Moving on to BGA, much needed victory. Trip, what are your thoughts on this one?
I thought it was an overall masterclass from the Raptors personally, but to spotlight one person in particular, sophomore Ben Hubbard played the game of his life.
Absolutely.
That game. Dude was electric. He has the wheels, and he showed his potential of what he could potentially do in college.
Not just him, but Carter Pace with 4 rushing touchdowns. Our offense was just dominant the whole time. It was amazing.
We played a fantastic game, and it was a much-needed morale boost. Moving on to the Franklin game, a little chaotic. The game was supposed to be played Friday night at Franklin, but weather was not permitting, so the second half was pushed to the next day on a Saturday. Trip, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, the Raptors looked a little sloppy in the first half, but after the rain delay, the Raptors really cleaned it up in the second half, and I really loved what I saw ultimately coming out with the dub.
Yeah, the offense did great. I believe the final score was 31-6, held Franklin to no more points the second day. And last but not least, the Oakland game, a tough, heartbreaking loss for the Raptors. No one expected the Raptors to come out and do what they did that night. Trip, what are you thinking about this one?
Man, that Oakland team was something else. They had not lost since the pandemic started in 2019. Our offense kept up with them, and it was a valiant effort, but the Raptors ultimately couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and our defense was great as well. Great fight throughout the first 3 quarters, but I think tiredness, fatigue, and just a couple of injuries ultimately led Oakland to pull away.
Yep, it was unfortunate, but it was a sight to see, man. The student section had brought the energy that team needed to do what they did that night, so props to the Raptors for sure.
Vance, off the wall.
Our level 4 student, Austin Bynum, has put together a little segment that covers the history of the Battle of the Woods matchup. Take a look.
Ravenwood enters the Battle of the Woods game this Friday with an 8-10 record against Brentwood in the regular season. The tradition has been going on ever since 2004 when Ravenwood had opened just 2 years before then. Brentwood's rivalry was once Franklin and instantly shifted to Ravenwood when they came into town. It has been one of the best rivalries in Williamson County over the years. After winning last year 21-16, the Raptors will try and keep the trophy back-to-back years. Both teams enter the game at 2-1. These teams have seen each other multiple times in the playoffs before, where Ravenwood has a 3-2 record against them. Coach Hester has a deep history of this game, having coached at Brentwood for 3 years back in 2010 through 2012. He returns as the head coach at Ravenwood for the 2nd straight year after leaving them back in 2015 to coach at Nolensville and Florence. Back through 2013 through 2015, Coach Hester led the Raptors to a 38-4 record and a championship.
Yeah, having coached at Brentwood and Ravenwood, been in this game for a long time, and probably almost half of the meetings I've been a part of in one way or another. But the game is super exciting, especially for the fans. All the kids know each other. They go to church together. They spend time outside of school together, and thus there's a lot of bragging rights for the winner at stake, and I think that's what kind of drives the excitement around the game for both fan bases and the players.
Well, it's a rivalry week, so it's always been very important to me. I've always played with these kids since Blaze days as well, and I always want to beat them. So.
I'm here with Coach Hester as well, the man, the myth, the legend, head coach for the Ravenwood varsity football team. Got a couple questions for you. Thanks for joining the show with us. All right, this rivalry has been awesome. But Ravenwood versus Brentwood is what everyone looks forward to. It's a big thing, football, lacrosse, all sorts of sports. But you're leading the football charge, man. What's that like for you?
It's super exciting. I've been on both sides of the rivalry. Graduated from that school across the interstate myself, and coached there before coming here the first time, and it's nothing like it.
I totally agree with you, man. Last year, you did very, very good. Y'all had a very successful season. You got beat out by someone in the playoffs, unfortunately. Those two twins going to Kentucky. Hard time defending them. Do you think your team this year has what it takes to make the same run, if not farther?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think our guys have come together. We started out a little slow against NBA, breaking in a bunch of new players, guys that hadn't had a lot of experience. I think they have done well kind of improving each and every week. I think we proved last week against Oakland, who's won 33 games in a row, 34 now after beating us, that we can play on any given night with anybody in the state. So if we continue to improve and stay on the course we're on right now, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. So you're talking about the improvement. What kind of steps have been taken to advance to the next level? Because I agree with you, the performance against Oakland, we almost had him, man. So just going from there, what kind of steps are going to be taken to advance this team?
Yeah, I think it's all about experience, all about reps, right? So the more opportunities people get in the heat of the moment, like this game here, the better they're going to play when that time comes around next time. So we're going to keep putting them in the fire and see what they do when they come out.
All right, perfect, man. And you got a connection. Obviously, you said you had played for Brentwood and you coached there as well. Has that affected anything in this rivalry at all, or are you Brentwood in the history in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, I burned all the stuff that I had that was blue and got rid of all that. But there's a little known stat out there. So I've been a part of 7 of these games.
Okay.
I've never been on the losing end of one of them.
Ooh, okay.
So,
Not many people could say that one.
Nobody, actually.
Yeah, nobody. Exactly, man. I like his attitude. Y'all got anything to add for us?
I got one question for you, Coach. So we talk a lot about Chris, for good reason. He's a phenomenal player. Is there anyone you think we don't talk about enough, someone who makes big impact on and off the field?
Well, I think if you want to look on the defensive side of the ball, obviously that'd be Tanner Shuck. Mm-hmm. Tanner and then Drake Stallwork in there, and basically the same sentence. Both those guys have been kind of the leaders of that defense, and Drake's made some really big plays as well as Tanner. Tanner has the big hits on the quarterback against Franklin and also against Oakland. And then on the offensive side, I think Carter Pace is kind of maybe the straw that even stirs the drink that makes us go, right? His ability and Cartua's ability to run the football between the tackles, opens up the passing game for Chris and those receivers. So I would say those 3 or 4 guys obviously are kind of unsung heroes of the team.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Trip, you got anything for him?
Well, speaking of unsung heroes, how impressed have you been with Ben Hubbard this season?
Well, obviously Ben missed one game due to being banged up a little bit, but for a sophomore to step on the scene in 6A football and do the things that he's done, he blocked a punt against BGA and then turns right around and returns a kickoff for a touchdown. Had some big plays against the NBA. The sky's the limit for Ben. Speed is his superpower, and he uses it well. But for a sophomore, he's ahead of schedule.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. We got a video of Ben on one of our hype videos just flying down the field in that kick return. It was awesome. But I think that's all the questions we got for you. Thank you so much for coming out. Raptors, make sure you are showing up to the Battle of the Woods game. Every person counts. We need all the energy we can get because, Coach Hester's never been on the losing side. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll see you at the game.
what does Battle of the Woods mean to you?
It is the biggest game of the year.
It's like just proving that we're the best in the district, that we can win these district games.
It's just another team. Blood between us and Brentwood, and proves that we're going to be the better Wood this Friday. Everything.
Means the world. We finna beat them on Friday.
Proves who the real Wood is.
It's just another team, and we just got to go out there and do our best to compete and win the game. So it's kind of just like any other game that we would play.
Bigger game day, love the atmosphere. It's a bigger deal than any other game around the state.
And it proves who the better Wood is.
Thank you so much, Mimi. We are going to detail what each team needs to do to be successful in this rivalry. Trip, what are you thinking?
You know, honestly, man, Ravenwood's offense has been a strong spot for them, obviously, throughout the season. That's what's kept them in the games.
Absolutely.
Specifically the Oakland game. But for this game in particular, while they've been getting away with it in some games, like the BGA one, the third down conversions need to be better for the team to be successful, flat out. And, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, just keep doing what they're doing and they'll be successful.
Yes, sir.
And one thing I would like to see from the Raptors is I think they could go through the air more. They only have about 700 passing yards, but a 76% completion rate. I think Chris is a phenomenal quarterback, great arm. I would like to see him try to hit his receivers more.
Absolutely, I could see that. Hinted on one more thing, and we talked about it a little with Coach Hester. The key players need to show out for this game. We got on the defensive side Tanner Shuck and Chris Parson in the quarterback position. Both of these players, they are very important for the success of both the Raptor offense and defense. They need to show out for this game. That is crucially important on the Ravenwood side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely need to have a game. I think the rest of the team follows them very closely behind. When they play well, the rest of the team plays well.
And for the Brentwood side of the ball, what do you think Brentwood needs to do?
Well, Brentwood has been struggling a little bit this year. Some losses, some close games. I think Brentwood needs to make sure they show up with energy. That is going to be their most important thing, is to come out, arms swinging, firing at this Ravenwood offense. We saw how the NBA penetration of our offensive line, how that affected Chris Parson in that game and how that affected our offense and kind of crippled it almost. I think they need to have the energy and they need to be conditioned to be able to puncture that O-line all 4 quarters of this game to be successful.
And for Brentwood's defense, they got to contain the run game.
Yes, they do.
When Pace, Chapman, and Hubbard get hot, there's no stopping them.
Yep, they can't get room. Can't happen. Well, boys, who do you got for this game? Jacob, who do you got winning this game?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think both teams are phenomenal this year. I'm going to go 24-21 Raptors.
Nice.
Okay. A little close one. Close action. Okay. Trip, what do you think?
Well, personally, you know, rest by 90. Shout out football team. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, what I got for you, I'm with Jacob a little bit on this one. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Ravenwood's run game is just kind of going to pound the Brentwood defense a little bit. So I got, let's see, 35-14 Raptor victory. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our first ever game day show. It's been a blast having you. Make sure you guys are staying tuned. We are hoping to do more of these in the future. But guys, thank you for joining me. It's been great.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time. See you, Raptors.